Jeremy has already tweeted me this morning, get this biased idiot off our screens. It's like watching the BBC. He will cost TalkTV millions of viewers. Big mistake. Well, tell me why I'm wrong. I mean, I'm allowed to be biased because I'm allowed to have an opinion. And I'm more than welcome, though, and I relish it when you ring and tell me why you think I'm wrong. 0344 499 1000. Tell me why I'm talking complete gibberish. Tell me why Boris was the best Prime Minister in history. I don't mind. If you want to do that, really, really welcome and happy to hear from you. One of Boris Johnson's former advisors is in the studio with me, Alex Crowley. I haven't asked you the question, so you have the floor. What were Boris Johnson's achievements as we enter his final weekend as Prime Minister?
I think his achievements were to have broken the Brexit deadlock, in as much as we got over the hump of actually having a legal separation. I will absolutely concede that there are still issues to be resolved.
But I noticed you didn't use the words "he got Brexit done," because he didn't, but he did break the deadlock. I think that's a fair analysis.
I think there is nuance in that phrase. But just think of where we were back in those days in 2019 when it looked as if this country couldn't go forward, couldn't go back, couldn't go left, couldn't go right. So
yeah.
We must give him credit for that.
That's fair.
We must give him credit for elements of his leadership during COVID. There were obviously mistakes made, as there would have been by any government, but there were some elements of what he did, particularly the vaccine rollout, which were a success, one of the first major countries in the world to do it. Thanks in part to us not being in the EU. And finally, I think you have to give him credit for his leadership on Ukraine, as being, again, Britain leading the way on supporting Ukraine when a lot of other countries around the world were sort of looking to see who would go first. You know, they were cautious about jumping in there and backing Zelensky.
Of course,
Boris went in there.
Many cynical people, of which I will never be accused of being,
surely not,
would say, well, that was Boris overcompensating because of his rather dodgy ties with Russia and partying with Medvedev's father, former KGB agent and the like, and it's almost like he was laying it on with a trowel because he knew that he had some Russian skeletons in his closet. That's what I'm saying. Cynical people.
Well, you may well say that. I think you credit him for being far too strategic. I think that's one of the. Look, it's one of those.
But I think it's a fair. It's. Well, what I will say though is it's fair. I've always said he's been okay over Ukraine. I don't think he's been amazing. I think he's revelled in the glory a little too much, but I think that you're right. I think that, but that's not a great list. That's not a long list, is it?
Look, it's not a long list, although that being said, if you'd had said again this time in 2019, before he was about to take over, if you'd had said those three things, I think you'd been pretty happy, because they are, it's a short list, but it's a short list of big things.
But it's a short list for someone with an 80-seat majority.
Well, yes.
It's an incredibly short list for someone who had such a massive majority. What are the papers saying about him potentially making a comeback?
Well, it's interesting. There seems to be quite a few little stories here and there about how he's not really going to go away and he's just going to kind of lick his wounds for a bit and get ready for a comeback. We've seen this narrative emerging over the last few weeks, and it's an interesting one given that he had such a comprehensive defeat by his own party. The way that his premiership unravelled over those couple of days a few weeks ago was really quite something. Look, it's obvious that he feels that he has unfinished business and that there are people around him who are his supporters who feel that there is the possibility that he might be able to make some kind of comeback. Personally, I don't think so. I think, you know, he's had his... Most people get one shot at this.
Yeah, I agree.
They really do.
Once you're done, you're done.
Once you're out, you're out. And him hanging around on the backbenches and having a very high-profile media career is going to be a huge problem for the next Prime Minister, quite possibly. Let's see, because he's always going to be there.
But he won't care about that.
Well, he won't care about that, and in fact, he will do his level best to bring the spotlight back to him. I can imagine we'll see lots of Telegraph columns and lots of appearances. He may even be on TalkTV, who knows? Watch out, Cristo. Are your days numbered? Because Boris might be sitting in your chair.
Do you know, but he never lasts the 3 hours, though. That's because he gets you distracted.
He'd come in for half an hour.
Yeah.
I mean, it'd be a good half an hour.
It would be brilliant half an hour.
But it would be half an hour.
I would go for a drink with him.
Well,
I would go for a drink with Boris in a second, I'm not sure I would. How can I put this in a kind way? You know, I would check who was buying the drinks and whether who owed whom's round, because I imagined that I would end up paying for them all.
I thought you were going to say you wouldn't get in the taxi with him on the way home.
Well,
and that's what someone once said.
I wouldn't want to be the fifth Mrs. Johnson, for I'm not sure which I would end up. Okay, let's talk about some other goings on at the House of Commons. The Eco-Mob Extinction Rebellion. They all drove into diesels.
They did.
To the House of Commons.
Even if they were driving electric vehicles, they didn't care to think about where the material for the batteries was mined, but never mind. Yes, they in their latest stunt, they decided to stick themselves to the Speaker's chair in an otherwise empty House of Commons.
They were smashing the windows out here the other day.
They were. So yes, I saw that. Yes, I saw the windows have been fixed, thankfully.
Well, we don't have windows anymore. They boarded them up with sort of lovely Talk TV and various other branding. We've lost our glass.
Yeah, actually, the goings on of Extinction Rebellion, they used to be quite amusing, didn't they? And sort of mildly irritating. But as we go into an energy crisis that has been caused in very large part by the eco-extremist influence on our policymakers, we have an energy system that is designed, this is by design, to be more expensive.
Isn't part of this, I'm a huge Thatcherite. I think she was the best post-war Prime Minister we've ever had. My family prospered under Thatcher. I dread to think where my immigrant father, who came here, you know, without great reading and writing skills, who as part of the Thatcher ideology, you know, if you were prepared to go out there and work, and if you were prepared to start your own business, my God, she was with you, she was behind you, and my family prospered under that. However, isn't part of the problem that we have now, it is a lot of the renewables, it is the fact we've given ourselves energy insecurity, but aside from all of that, and unfortunately this does stem from Thatcher, the fact that so much, because the energy all ends up in a privatised marketplace now, even if we were energy secure, even if we did produce our own energy, even if we produce energy from fracking, nuclear, renewables, wherever, it all has to end up on the open market. And that comes from, unfortunately, the privatisation of the energy market.
Look, there's no doubt that the energy market is broken in the sense that we see prices for electricity, for example, in the open market sometimes being lower than the bills we actually end up paying as consumers. But I go back to this. We have designed an energy system that loads on the cost of future decarbonisation onto current bills. So
I get that. The private is ridiculous.
Well, the private energy companies, I mean, by the way, the private energy companies have gotten away with something huge here.
But even if we said, right, that's it, no more, draw a line in the sand, we are going to become completely energy self-sufficient via fracking, via nuclear, we still wouldn't have lower bills because the energy ends up on the open market. And unless, dare I say, good God, I can't believe I'm going to say this, but unless we nationalise it so we own it, it's always going to be subject to market conditions. So we can't blame it all on...
Yeah, it would be subject to market conditions. Let's say that we went full Corbynista, and we nationalised everything. We said, right, we're going to produce it all and we're going to own it all, and nobody else gets it.
By the way, would be an eye-watering amount of money to buy it all back, but go on.
It wouldn't be the cheapest option.
No.
And we would end up paying for it in high bills. But let's say that we did... we would still have to operate on the global market anyway. We would still be influenced by global market prices.
But why would we have to be? Because at the moment, if you are a private company, of course you're going to sell it on the open market and try and get the highest price for it. If we own it ourselves, why do we have to put it onto the open market? Why can't we say, well, look, we're owning it ourselves, and our decision is to just sell it to British people who want lower energy bills?
Because we are geographically an island, but we are not an island in the sense of the energy market. We still have very large interconnectors connecting to the European mainland. We play in a global market.
But why would we have?
Well, I mean, for example, if you look at the Saudis, and they have complete 100% energy security of their oil and a lot of control over it, they still are subject to the fluctuations of global supply and demand, and it does have an impact on them. Granted, it has less of an impact on them, and yes, in this kind of future socialist utopia, it may have less of an impact.
Please don't use those words
Well,
in the studio.
That's what you're saying. You know, I mean, look, all this is to say,
Alex, it could be a complete identity crisis.
Well, look, I mean, you said it. Look, you know, you set us down this road. What can I say?
Yeah, it's true. So it is broken because we either nationalise it and have high bills from that, or we don't nationalise it and have high bills. Either way, we are proverbially, you know the word I'm going to use. Okay, when we come back, let's talk about 4-day weeks. That's another story in the newspapers this morning. Humberside, I don't know what that, live from the Talk Radio studio. It's Cristo here on Talk TV.